Hi, I'm Megan. Welcome to Greenwood Grown. Thank you for joining me. This is an August garden tour with my garden dogs, River and Ike. A lot has changed in the garden since my last garden tour. This is probably the most fun time of the year for me as a gardener. So let's take a look. The flower bed of frustration is got an upgrade. So my son, my 14-year-old son, put this border in. He dug out a trench, filled it with gravel, and then laid these leftover pavers that we had from doing the border in front of the main garden. We have another one to do the other, or enough to do the other side, and maybe one more bed too. So I'm pretty happy with this. It'll make string trimming a lot easier against this bed. The bed itself's looking better slowly. I do want to do a video just about this bed and about why I call it my flower bed of frustration and what I'm doing with it. But for right now, there's some forget-me-nots up. The foxglove have died back, but I want them to reseed, so I'm letting them drop their seeds. And this Sweet William over here is, I think, not getting enough water, but it also needs to be deadheaded. I also wanted it to drop its seeds. So you can see it's starting to flower, like you'll see on the other side my other Sweet William is. The daisy also is doing well right here, but it needs to be deadheaded. And we've got a couple of other plants. We did lose this thing, which I can't remember, but the hostas are doing okay. This dead looking thing, I don't think this end is getting enough water. So I'm gonna have to address that. This is the, I can't remember the name of that plant. That's super frustrating. I put it in there. I bought it. It'll come to me, but you know, it's not coming to me because I'm here trying to film a video. But anyway, it's doing okay. I had noticed that at the manifold, the soaker hose on this had gotten turned off. I don't know why it should never get turned off, but so some of the things are doing a little bit. They're a little rough, but overall, pleased with the progress. This is a native steeple bush, a different type than the one I have in my front yard. And I also can't remember what most people call it. Most people don't call it steeple bush. I can't remember the name of it either. So, you know, I'm doing great on remembering the names of plants over here. But overall, I'm pleased with the progress. It doesn't look great, but it's coming along and we'll get there. I'll do a video about this at some point, maybe when I'm less frustrated by it. We did cut the arbor so you could walk through it. The grapes have completely overtaken the rose, so she has stopped blooming. But, and we do have grapes on this grape arbor. It does grow grapes. They're just not edible. So they're never good. So unfortunately, that's why I keep trying to cut it down. And the more I cut it, the happier it is. So, oh well. The patio got a bit of an upgrade. We moved the old table that was under the plum tree over there to here to act as kind of like the counter in what we're sort of turning into an outdoor kitchen. We put these two picnic tables here, and when we're using the fire pit, we put it here. Everything there we want to be movable so that the boys still have access to use the basketball hoop. And then we put some new, more sturdy patio furniture here. The round table still lives over there, but I'm pretty happy with that. Let's take a look at the flower garden. It's doing all sorts of fun things. So this dahlia is about ready to bloom. I think it needs some fertilizer, so I'm gonna give it some bloom fertilizer because it's been in bud stage for kind of a while. This one is also about ready to bloom. This is one of the new ones. It's got straw flower down in here, but it's fallen over from the other bed. So this bed was all straw flower and the black-eyed Susan vine, which is pulling down the straw flower. That's why those two are down, is the black-eyed Susan has kind of pulled them down. But I'm gonna cut some of these. This is my first year growing straw flower. If you've never grown it, it's got like weird petals that's called straw flower because they are straw-like, and it needs to be topped much like zinnias do, and I didn't do that. So these I'm going to top now, and they've bloomed. I did this one, and I'm going to do the rest of them and see if we can get this to fill in a little bit more. The coreopsis always loses its blooms in heat. We just had a heat wave. It's a nice, beautiful, cool morning today, but we have had some heat, but it will rebloom. So the longer I grow coreopsis, the more I love it. The mum back here is about ready to pop into bloom. Another one I'll show you is in bloom. And for how much this bed or this pot struggled, everything decided to work overtime. And there is a dahlia, a new one right there about ready. Look, it's going to be purple. I'm so excited. So, but yep, everyone's happy here. This dahlia, so the new dahlias, the baby ones, the ones that have that I just grew new from tubers, are the ones that are either just blooming, but the ones that are established, like this one, they're blooming already. So she's been blooming for a while. And then, of course, this giant thing needs to be deadheaded, but just look how many flowers are on her. That's just one plant putting out all those red, beautiful dahlias. And then this is a new dahlia. I didn't know what color it was until it just bloomed, but oh, isn't she pretty? So she just came in to bloom. And then we have the other coreopsis over here. The impatiens are looking beautiful this time of year, as long as you keep them mostly shaded. There's some down here in the rock garden too. Rock garden's looking really good, filling in really nicely. Look at these two plants. They're kind of wily. You don't have to water them much though. So over in this bed, I cut the lovage all the way down, and it's regrowing. I love lovage that it does that. It gets really tall, really high, and after it blooms, you can just cut it down and it'll grow back new foliage. It's a lovely plant to have in your garden. It's really not fussy. Yarrow got deadheaded, and so it's about ready to rebloom. Over here, if you are in the Pacific Northwest and you grow hibiscus, please tell me what. Please tell me why I cannot get this. My beautiful hibiscus every year. Every year, this is what she does. Lots of beautiful green foliage. I have given her a blooming fertilizer at least twice. So nothing. But the other plants over here are doing great. Look at the ginger. I had meant to move it to the different things now after they sprouted to different pots, and I didn't get to it. So we'll see how much ginger I get. I think it'll be pretty minimal just because it's so crowded. But I'm really enjoying just the plant. So I think I will. This is a successful experiment that I'm pretty happy about. We'll be growing more ginger in the future. This is my oldest mum, who is just coming into flower, a gift from my friend Emily. And it always makes me think of her. And it just is always happy and completely fuss-free. Look at this impatient. Okay, so this giant one that is overtaking the entire pot is the only one I grew from seed. I was expecting these low-growing ones, kind of like the ones that I bought from the nursery. I just don't know what to think about her. just gigantic, happy as a clam. I mean, I'm delighted, but oh my word, I'm having a hard time with plant names today. What is this stuff called? You guys tell me. It normally gets big and tall, but I think it's getting shaded out. Usually I grow the impatiens in the front and this in the back. Why am I having such a hard time coming up with the name for that plant? Anyway, and it grows up, but it's fine, it's happy, but it is definitely getting out competed. But that's okay. Everything, it looks beautiful. Over here, we still have pansies because they're in the shade, just happy. They are looking, this will be the first time I'll need to deadhead them. And they really don't even look that spent. So I had planted them there expecting them to die back, and I was going to put a dahlia in there or a begonia or something. And they just have lasted through the whole summer, through the heat and everything. So can't complain about that. The bee balm is spent. We enjoyed it. The bees were enjoying it clear up until just a few days ago. And this last little bit of heat, it's over. So it's on my list to cut that back. And the petunias are starting their second flush of flowers. And then here where I pulled the bamboo out, I can't remember if that was in my last tour, but I put in a celosia here. Actually, there's two of them. There's a little yellow one down there. There were three, but as you can see, this one died. It's on my list to come when I come out to deadhead things. The bamboo is trying so hard to come back. That was a mistake. I definitely should have covered it with cardboard or something before I covered it with compost. And then this is one of the surprise dahlias, and isn't she a beauty? Look at those colors. My word. Over here, the bachelor buttons, now that it's starting to cool down, and I did cut those down and they're starting to rebloom. This begonia is not super happy. I've moved her. She wasn't happy in the first place. I moved her. She still doesn't seem super happy. If you grow a lot of begonias, tell me what they like, especially if you're in the Pacific Northwest. I have had one grow well for me before, but this lady seems unhappy. So we still are getting strawberries from our green stock. Just really happy with it as a strawberry tower. And they're putting out lots of runners that I'm planning on moving into the blueberry bed to act as a living mulch for the blueberry bed. I'm gonna kind of skip over the herb garden. It looks great. But since I just did a video on that, we won't talk too much about it. I did want to show you that the lavender, after it got deadheaded, is starting to rebloom. Can you see that in there a little bit? So you will get more blooms if you did head your lavender, evidently. This little new grouping of pots is looking really happy. This dahlia did bloom, but it just doesn't have one right now. It's a beautiful, like, purple color, just stunning. And this dahlia down here, I didn't get it planted deep enough. You can see that its tubers are above ground, and she still did okay, but doesn't stand upright. So, but look, isn't that a pretty color? She's very pretty. I will do a better job next year. And then over here, the zinnia garden is in its most stunning state. This is when it looks just the most beautiful. Loving it. Loving these green envy zinnias in my arrangements. They just are so pretty. These are forget-me-nots, I think. A friend gave them to me, and I thought she said they were a ground cover. They clearly are not a ground cover, so they're going to have to move. But right now, they can stay there. But there is a calla lily right there. So they are out competing the calla lily, so they're going to need to go. And then these two calla lilies have already, right there and right there, they've already bloomed, but I'm gonna fertilize them, see if they bloom again, but they're just happy, and hopefully they'll get established and look really lovely and beautiful against the honeysuckle. So I deadheaded the Sweet William, and look, this is what I was talking about in the flower bed of frustration. Look, it's all blooming again. It's so pretty. I am in love with Sweet William. I want to grow a lot more. So I'm just delighted. I can't wait to see what it does next year. It's a really interesting plant. So I grew it from seed, and it did not flower the first year, and that's how it goes. That's what it does. And then it started blooming really early in the spring, and after I deadheaded it, it all just popped into bloom again. So I'm delighted with it. In the continued saga of why can't Megan grow cosmos, who knows? But I've got a few. they look okay. They're okay. The straw flowers that are mixed in here are just fun and wild and doing better. And then this wild. So this bed used to be a strawberry and rhubarb bed, and I tried to move the rhubarb, and like many things like that, it laughed at me. So I've already harvested all of that rhubarb twice, and it's just very happy. So if you're local and you need rhubarb, you let me know. I'll hook you up. So over here, these pots are doing great. Some of the late nasturtium that I planted is doing great. Happy about that. And then these extra blooms that I planted over here, these were just the last of my zinnias that I didn't have a place for, and I threw them in the ground here, and to kind of fill in the spots until the Weigelia fill in and do better and I get more established. And this is why I love zinnias. They just are like, oh, thank you, and happily took off, even though they were next to dead when I put them in. And yep, they're just doing their job, filling in the space. So I don't often show the front of my house, but I wanted to show these Daphne bushes. I have 4 Daphne bushes along with this steeple bush. And the goal is, I actually would like, I think, to take this one out and have the steeple bush is this wild thing that needs to be deadheaded. I would like to have it grow all along the back of the Daphne. The Daphne smells amazing. That wild thing is a pussy willow, and if you know, you know. So the actual plant is behind that 15-foot tall plant, and it's already been cut down once this year. It just, it really needs to come out. If you have any tips about how to deal with pussy willow, let me know. This bed is really fun. I put in a perennial sunflower. I'm really happy with that. The black-eyed Susan vines in this bed have been way more successful than in any of the other places. I think it's just because I put them in sooner. They don't get really any different treatment than anything else. So they are also pulling down some of the marigolds and the zinnias and the strawflower, but it's a happy mess, and it will be what it will be. I'm delighted by it. The front of the garden makes me happy with the zinnias, and the scarlet runner beans have taken off, and even this black-eyed Susan vine is starting to grow up the side here. So the basil looks amazing. I have been drinking tons of basil tea. Definitely a permanent collection in my garden. This sunflower is just coming up. We planted more sunflowers along the bottom here, dwarf varieties, and none of them have come up, so I'm going to replant them. For dwarf varieties, we still have time in our growing season. We've got our spring cilantro went to seed and made us coriander, so this is just waiting for me to harvest the coriander from. This unruly bed is, it's doing great, I think. We'll see if I get tomatillas. The bees are loving it. I did put, a friend had a little volunteer tomatilla that she gave me, and I put it in there. Hopefully it's enough to pollinate the other plant, and we will, there are some tents forming. You can see, do you see one right there? I don't know what the actual name of that is, a tent, a pod, I don't know. Anyway, we'll see if they get fruit in them. These 2 artichokes that will have to be moved, but I didn't want to move them right away, are doing great. We planted beans in here. The peppers are doing great. They do have peppers on them. This extra heat is, you know, always comes with mixed blessings, but the peppers are loving it. So hopefully we'll get some ripe peppers here soon. This is our 3rd planting of sunflowers, so they'll get tall and bloom. And then the eggplant is doing great. We have eggplant. Look at that. Look at that. Plenty of eggplant. The loofah, not so much. I don't know what if, so I don't know if they have lost nutrition. I have fertilized them twice. I don't know, maybe that's not enough. I know they're really heavy feeders. They have produced some squash, but they're still tiny. So I don't know that I'm going to get loofah big enough to dry this year. If you grow loofah in the Pacific Northwest, teach me your secrets. I so want to grow it. This is my 3rd year. And yeah, I just, they never get big enough to dry. So yes, teach me, if you know how to grow loofah in the Pacific Northwest, teach me your ways. Miracle the artichoke, just put out an artichoke, completely, you know, completely out of season. It's fine. And the sunflower and squash bed is doing great. We're getting lots of patty pan and some black beauty zucchini. Most of the squash plants that didn't make it were the black beauty zucchini, which is fine because I have the Romanesco behind me, so it's not like we're missing out on zucchini. We are going to put another round of peas over against this trellis. I just want to wait until we have another little heat wave coming up next week, and I want to wait till we get through that. And let me show you why. So here we pulled out the romaine and put in more lettuce, and some of it's coming up, but the germination is spotty. So the other volunteer artichoke is also putting out artichokes. Beets are doing great. These cantaloupe, we'll see. They did finally take off in the heat. They do have a few fruit on them. I have no idea if we have enough time for them to ripen. And then I put another round of potatoes there, and they're ready to get covered with straw again. So that's on my list of stuff to do. The hot peppers over here are doing great. Lots of blooms, some fruit. Yeah. We put in over here, you probably can't see it through the trellis, but we put in spinach there. Hopefully that the Malabar spinach will grow over and help a little bit provide some more shade along with the beans over here so that we can extend our season of spinach. These cabbage are mostly ready to eat. This one isn't, but the other 4 are really close to harvest, and we are going to have a bumper crop of cabbage this year. These crazy cucumbers, these are the yard-long cucumbers, and I planted them in the spring, and they just like sat there and did nothing. So, you know, it is what it is. If you don't know about sacrificial plants, let me show you. I don't know if you'll remember, but this nasturtium was big and gorgeous and beautiful, and now it is mostly dead, and that's because it has been attacked by these little guys. So, and there are some ladybugs over here very much enjoying themselves. But none of the other plants around them have that on them. They have been drawn to the nasturtium. And that's when we talk about sacrificial plants. That's what we're talking about. A plant that is going to attract a pest animal and give them something to do and something to eat so that they leave your other plants alone. Nasturtium is a great reason for that, and one of the reasons that I grow. I'm not mad about this. I expect this to happen. So, and we have other nasturtium right here. Look at all this nasturtium. not even really being touched. It looks great, very healthy. So over here, pulled it. This is where the coriander was. We put seeds in here, and I can't remember what, except for I did put peas along. Well, I didn't. My sweet employee did. She's the one who planted them. And I think the birds are eating them because I can see the little pea seeds come, like in a couple of places. They're not in the right place and nothing's coming up. I think the birds are eating them. So probably gonna have to replant those, and nothing really is coming up. There's some little seedling right there, but I can't remember what we threw in there. So maybe cilantro again. That sounds like something. That sounds right. But anyway, the Romanesco squash has been attacked by squash bugs, but we're just watching it and pruning it, and it's doing great and producing a lot of squash. So, not too mad about that. Over here, the rattlesnake beans have grown up to the top of the trellis. We are eating them green, and I'm starting to let some of them go big. Probably the rest of them will get bigger and eat as a dried bean. Harvesting tons of German chamomile from this volunteer. And these chocolate cherry tomatoes that were volunteers did grow true to type. And let's see, it looks like, and that one's not quite ripe. It'll ripen on the counter. They're quite big. So, but they do taste like a chocolate cherry, but they're bigger than a normal cherry tomato. They're quite large for a cherry. So this row clearly needs to be pruned. I can't really walk through it, so I'll show you from this side. The tomatoes are doing great. I did get our first full-size tomato. If you follow me on Instagram, you would have seen it. Variety is pineapple, which is one of my favorite varieties. I was delighted that we haven't eaten it yet. It'll be dinner tonight. And so yeah, lots of fruit, lots of big, good sized fruit. I have reduced the water on these significantly. So normally I would do it a lot sooner than this, but we were so far behind that their fruit wasn't really big enough to do it. But I'm down to watering them about every third day now. And then over here, this is also a wild jungle, but I can get through it. We're getting starting to get fleshes of about a bowl full of cherry tomatoes. There's 4 different varieties in here, and all of them are producing some tomatoes. So very happy about that. We're going to have a bumper crop of cherry tomatoes. There's just a ton of them in there. And this pot had potatoes in it that I harvested, and we amended the soil in it and put arugula in, being grown as a baby green. So this is about 10 days from when we planted it, and in about another 10 days we'll be able to harvest it for the first time. I love growing arugula as a baby green. Over here you can see the tomatoes a little bit better. So every day I'm coming out and picking a pretty good bowl full, and every day it gets more. The Sun Gold is the one that has produced the most, and whether that be the variety or the fact that it gets the most sun, I couldn't say. And over in the in-ground beds, we are already harvesting cabbage. I have made sauerkraut. We've eaten fried cabbage. I'm going to have more cabbage than I know what to do with, which is definitely a good problem to have. And the Brussels sprouts are also doing great. I've been seeing the wasps in here eating I have seen a lot of white cabbage moths, but the wasps are also in here eating the larvae. So we're happy about that. You don't kill your wasps unless they're attacking you or yellow jackets. They are great for pest control. Particularly if you grow brassicas. One of their favorite foods is the larvae of white cabbage moth. And these onions are doing great. And then the straw flower, which I have been harvesting. This is how I know that the other ones need to be cut, because these were cut sooner and are just producing a lot more flowers than the other ones. And that's my August garden tour. Thanks for joining me. I hope you enjoyed it. If you have questions or if you have answers, let me know in the comments. And thanks for joining me. I'll talk to you next time.